Welcome, dear students. Today I am here to talk about the status and scope of agriculture. The word agriculture is derived from the Latin words agere or agri, which means field, and cultura, meaning cultivation. Agriculture is an applied science that includes all aspects of crop production, such as horticulture, livestock raising, fisheries, forestry, and so on. Since the beginning of the time, human civilizations have been continuously developing. The majority of this development has been focused on the gathering and consumption of food, making agricultural activities a fundamental component of these civilizations. We have come a long way from a society of wandering hunters and food gatherers to the current state of organized agriculture. Cultivating land for the purpose of growing crops and breeding and rearing livestock is the profession, science, and art of agriculture. So, talking about the branch of agriculture. First one is the agronomy. The production of different crops, including food crops, fodder crops, fiber crops, sugar, oil seeds, and so on, is the focus of agronomy. Enhancing food production and learning how to manage illnesses and pests are the objectives. Horticulture. Horticulture is a subset of agriculture that includes the production of beverages, crops like opium, which has the therapeutic use, flowers, fruits, vegetables, ornamental plants, spices, and condiments. Forestry. The large-scale cultivation of perennial trees for the purpose of providing companies with wood, lumber, rubber, and other raw resources is known as forestry. Animal husbandry. Animal production, care, and maintenance are all included in the term of animal husbandry. Maximizing input through feeding, raising, and other means is the aim. Fishery science. Fishery science is concerned with fish, both marine and freshwater, including prawns and shrimps. Agricultural engineering. Agricultural engineering is essential to horticulture and agricultural production, especially when it comes to the supply of tools and implements. Its objective is to produce customized equipment, machinery, and implements to support appropriate agriculture and animal husbandry. Home science. Enhancing the use of agricultural goods is home science. Production increases in tandem with improved usage. Agriculture is the rerouting of energy for use by humans and animals and the simplification of nature's integrated food webs. In India, for example, agriculture has always been more of a way of life than just a mode of business. The Indian economy has historically depended heavily on agriculture, and this dependence persists to this day. It would not be incorrect to say that agriculture is the backbone of the Indian economy. The process of socio-economic development is significantly influenced by agriculture. Over 58% of Indians rely solely on agriculture for their major source of income, with 70% of rural households being dependent on it. Approximately 20% of the country's gross domestic product, GDP, is derived from the agricultural sector, which is a major contributor to the Indian economy. The sector employs the greatest proportion of women, which amounts to 71% in rural regions, and largest workforce, approximately 42.3% in 2019, with 66% of its people living in rural areas. Indian economy is still agricultural based. In India, women make up roughly 33% of farmers and 47% of agricultural laborers, according to 2011 census. Furthermore, according to the Periodic Labor Force Survey, which was conducted from July 2018 to June 2019, 53.2% of males and 71.1% of female workers in rural India were employed in agricultural industry in 2018 to 2019. The share of operational holdings cultivated by women has increased from 11.7% in 2005 to 2006 to 13.9% in 2015 to 2016. As per the Agricultural Census 2015 to 2016, about 87% of the total operational land holdings are owned by small and marginal farmers with less than 2 hectares of land. The fact that these operational land holdings are owned by marginal farmers with less than 1 hectare of land underscores the reality that smallholders dominate Indian agriculture. However, in recent decades, the global trend of a decreasing number of agricultural workers has continued, particularly in developing countries, where small holdings are being replaced by industrial agriculture and mechanization, resulting in massive crop yield increases. Agriculture is essential for the survival of about 62% of Indians. Early in the history, agriculture was done for the domestic purpose only. As the time passes, new technologies and developments were made to enhance the crop production and people started earning from agriculture too. A key component of the sustainability of the food system is agricultural technology. A good example of how scale-independent technology has changed agricultural productivity is the Green Revolution. Among the many advantages of Green Revolution are higher yields, decreased poverty, improved infrastructure, and more food availability and cheaper food prices. The dairy industry in India saw a tremendous change following the Green Revolution. Spanning from 1970s to the mid-1990s, India surpassed the United States of America and China to become the world's greatest milk producer with 187.7 million metric tons in 2018 to 2019, up from 17 million metric tons in 1950 to 1951. The horticulture industry, which includes fruits and vegetables, spices and floriculture, has made a substantial contribution to agricultural growth in the past 10 years. The yield of food grains has been surpassed by that of horticulture. Many analysts believe that the National Horticulture Mission 2004 to 2005, which brought about the Golden Revolution and made India the world's second largest producer of fruits and vegetables after China, was largely responsible for making this feasible. Estimates for 2018 to 2019 show that while vegetable production climbed from 58.5 million metric tons to 183.17 million metric tons during the same period, fruit production increased from 97.97 million metric tons to 28.6 million metric tons in 1991 to 1992. Agriculture is the main source of raw materials for other businesses, since most industries rely on agricultural products. Agriculture provides all raw ingredients in the creation of cotton textiles, vegetable oils, sugar, juices, and paper. Agriculture is also the main source of income for small-scale industries such as rice husking, ginning and pressing, power and handlooms, apiculture, sericulture, and fruit and vegetable processing. A state's fiscal development depends on the precious foreign money that agriculture generates, which is why it plays a significant role in international trade. The primary goods sent to other nations via roads, railroads, and canals are products of both large and small-scale agricultural sectors, producing significant foreign exchange. The nation's food security also depends on agriculture. India has a population of about 1.4 billion people, almost twice as many as there were in 1970s. The population is expanding at a yearly rate of 1.08%. This is rapidly expanding population, combined with climate change, tremendous strain on the current farming system. India is a global agricultural superpower since it's the world's greatest producer of milk, lentils, and spices. It also has the largest herd of cattle. Moreover, the greatest area is dedicated to the growth of cotton, wheat, and rice. India stands at second place in the world for rice, wheat, sugarcane, cotton, tea, fruits, vegetables, and fish culture. With 106.2 million metric tons, and 117.5 million metric tons of production respectively. In 2019 to 2020, India is currently the world's second biggest producer of wheat and rice. It's also the world's largest exporter, with over 12.7 million metric tons of rice exported in 2017 to 2018, valued at USD 7.7 billion. India's total agricultural exports increased at a compound annual growth rate of 16.45% between fiscal year 10 to fiscal year 18, reaching a 38.21 billion USD. Exports of agricultural products were valued at 34.31 billion USD from April 2018 to February 2019. India is the world's top producer, importer and exporter of spices and related goods. In 2017 to 2018, its exports were estimated at $3.1 billion, while coffee exports from India hit a record 395,000 tons in 2017 to 2018. Tea exports hit a 36-year high of 240.68 million kgs in the year 2017. India's retail food and grocery business was valued at $380 billion in 2017. Development in agriculture has a huge potential to significantly lower the rate of malnutrition and related illnesses. The agricultural sector can contribute significantly, more than in the past, in improving nutrition outcomes because of its close ties to both the direct causes of undernutrition, which are diets, feeding practices, and health, and its underlying determinants, which are income, food security, education, access to health services, and gender equity. India has over 195 million hectares area under the cultivation, of which about 63% are rain-fed and the remaining 37% are irrigated. In triennium ending 1982 to 1983, cereals, millets and pulses accounted for 73% of the gross cultivated area. However, over the same period, the share of oilseeds, fruits and vegetables increased in the triennium ending 2016 to 2017. This percentage steadily decreased to 63%. This suggests that farmers are shifting away from the staple crops towards more commercial crops like oilseeds, fruits, vegetables, spices, among the others. The true measure of agricultural diversification, despite the fact that the food grain production still commands the majority of cultivated land, is the shift in the relative values of various agricultural sectors, such as fisheries and livestock. There has been a noticeable shift from staple crops to cash crops, horticulture and livestock products. The rise is especially noticeable when it comes to horticultural crops and livestock. As a matter of fact, livestock currently has a considerable higher value than food grains, and the value of horticulture crops is equal to that of grains. Though resource intensification provided India with much needed food, feed and fiber security, it also had some unforeseen negative effects. It specifically has a negative effect on the environment and natural resources, including greenhouse gas emissions, soil, air and water pollution, salinization of irrigated areas, depletion of groundwater and greater resistance to pests and weeds. Increased land degradation and soil erosion have resulted from the growing use of pesticides and fertilizers, which has accelerated the buildup of dangerous chemicals in the soil and water. It is important to note that an extensive lack of secondary nutrients and micronutrients, including sulfur, zinc, iron, and manganese in the soil has resulted from the imbalanced application of fertilizers. This is a severe worry since the inadequate zinc intake in food causes stunted growth and impaired development in infants, which may result in low productivity in subsequent generations. India is also facing rising greenhouse gas emissions. With an 80% contribution to these emissions, the agricultural sector is the second largest after the energy sector. Approximately 59% of the total greenhouse gas emissions resulting from agriculture are produced by raising cattle, with the overuse of chemical fertilizers on soil generating 21% of the emissions. Paddy farming contributes about 18.3% of greenhouse gas emissions, whereas residue management techniques account for 1.7%. Furthermore, there is a growing problem of land degradation in India. An estimated 1 to 0.4 million hectares or 37% of the country's land area are impacted by different forms of degradation. Some of the primary causes of land degradation in the nation are deforestation, inadequate irrigation, and water management practices. Excessive and unbalanced use of fertilizers and pesticides, overgrazing and incorrect handling of industrial wastes. With 60% of their land facing degradation, the states of Madhya Pradesh, Kerala, Himachal Pradesh, Nagaland, Mizoram, and Tripura are the worst impacted. The Indian government implemented various measures to ensure sustainable development. Among them are improvement in soil fertility through the Soil Health Card Scheme, providing improved access to irrigation and enhanced water efficiency through Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sinchai Yojana, supporting organic farming through Paramparagat Krishi Vikas Yojana, support for creation of a unified national agriculture market to boost the income of farmers. A new scheme, Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana, has been launched for the implementation from Kharif 2016 to mitigate the risk of crop loss in agriculture sector. Now we are going to discuss the major issues that the agricultural sectors are facing. Modern farming practices and state-of-the-art technologies are lacking from Indian agriculture. Globally, advanced farming is currently utilizing sensors and other scientific instruments for cutting-edge approaches and the application of artificial intelligence. Here are a few more issues that the Indian agriculture is facing. The inadequate use of manure and fertilizers. The results of several long-term studies show that soil fertility and quality are significantly impacted by uneven or insufficient fertilizer applications. However, over time, organic amendments have a cumulative effect and have a higher impact of over time. The slower rate of fertilizer input and the mismatch between crop demand and nutrient supply during critical growth stages are additional problems. Crop yields have increased in areas where agricultural methods primarily rely on the use of chemical fertilizers, but there has also been an increase in problems with soil quality and environmental contamination. Thus, compost, animal manure, and agricultural residues are examples of organic waste from agriculture that is often regarded as key agricultural fertilizer resource in agro-ecosystems. The type and dosage of organic amendments, the proper ratio of organic amendments to chemical fertilizer, the timing of nitrogen application, and other factors like mixing organic amendments with various soil organisms like phosphate solubilizing bacteria, native free-living nematodes, and apogel fungi must be taken into account in order to support the widespread adoption of this technology. The inadequate crop rotation. India's long-term practice of cereal rotations has led to nutrient imbalance and increase in pest infestation and soil degradation. Therefore, it is necessary to implement the pulse cereal rotation strategies in order to improve the yield. By preserving soil fertility, crop rotation aims to maximize crop yield. Crucially, pulses could be a substitute for intensifying or diversifying cereal rotations. Using seeds of poor quality. A crucial and essential component of higher agricultural output and continuous farming growth are seeds. Quality seed production and distribution are equally important. Because of this, a portion of farmers, especially smallholders, impoverished and rural farmers do not have access to high quality seeds, primarily because of their exorbitant cost. 13 state seed corporations were established by the Government of India in order to boost the supply of improved seeds to farms. Funds are provided to implementers under the plan to help with seed maintenance costs, operating funds, and pricing differentials for unopened seed supply. Agricultural marketing. Rural agricultural marketing is still in chaos. Farmers are compelled to sell their agricultural output at a loss to local merchants and middlemen in the absence of sustainable marketing channels. Most often, these farmers are forced to sell their produce in distress because of their socio-economic situation. The impoverished farmers are compelled to sell their goods for whatever price that is offered to them in order to meet their debt repayment. Farmers should benefit from their labors, but vultures take advantage of them. Despite assertions to the contrary, technology has only recently spread to urban areas. The current legislation is riddled with loopholes, and in the absence of a well-organized and regular agricultural product marketing structure, food prices would skyrocket and people would find it difficult to subsist. Farmers must overcome numerous challenges and hardships in order to receive a just and adequate compensation for their labor. The farm retail connection. In India, traditional spot markets comprise the majority of the agro industry. The fact that these largely unorganized markets lack the infrastructure necessary to meet the constantly shifting quality requirements and specifications highlights the importance of a structured online marketplace for agricultural products. In India, organized retail makes up a very small percentage of the vast and disorganized retail food market. A large variety of goods are available at organized food and grocery stores. Along the more established merchants like JioMart, Big Basket, Big Bazaar and Pantry, the agricultural industry is growing. The development of food retail requires the farm-retail relationship. The development of agricultural revenue, the creation of jobs in both rural and urban areas, and a reduction of waste all depend on the relationship between farms and retail. The economy, agricultural output, healthcare, and food security will all be impacted by this. Talking about the post-harvest losses, India is the world's second largest producer behind China, with an estimated $70 billion worth of food processing industry value. Fresh food and commodity losses after harvest, including dairy and eggs, are typically estimated to be between 10 and 25%. Between 30 to 40% of the anticipated losses in fruits and vegetables are predicted to occur. Crop losses following harvest begins to build up quickly along the production chain. This manufacturing chain consists of the following phases after post-harvest: harvesting and production, processing and product management, and market connections. For crops, efficiency is a constant problem. In the first two phases, post-harvest loss is rather common and has a negative impact on the smallholder farmers' incomes. Post-harvest losses can be due to poor holding capacity, improper harvesting, poor storage, poor distribution, and limited market access. Sustainable agricultural intensification. It's frequently asserted that the humanity will merely struggle to feed the 9 billion people that are expected to exist by 2050 if agriculture doesn't undergo a significant change. A world shift to climate-smart agriculture has been praised by international organizations such as the World Bank and the Food and Agriculture Organization (FAO). FAO consists of a single governance structure that is intended to disseminate farming practices and innovations that boost a particular crop's productivity, while also decreasing greenhouse gas emissions and enhancing climate change resilience. As the largest source of greenhouse gas emissions in the agriculture industry is livestock management, and thus can be mitigated by reducing animal population size and increasing productivity per animal. The world's largest livestock population currently resides in India, where there exists a competition for feed and fodder between productive and unproductive male and female cattle. Selective sex semen technology is an inventive approach to address this issue. It speeds up the development of genetically enhanced, high milk producing females and reduces the population of unnecessarily male cattle. Methogen bacteria have a metabolic activity that is particularly effective under flood circumstances. Rice production is the second largest source of greenhouse gas emissions after rearing of livestock. Enhanced productivity and coordinating rice farming with the nation's climate and biodiversity scenarios are essential for reducing emissions from rice production. Emissions can also be reduced by altering rice cultivation and irrigation techniques, such as the use of alternate wetting drying, which lowers irrigation water use in rice fields without compromising productivity. One well-known mitigating strategy is the judicious application of chemical fertilizers based on crop variety requirements and soil health as determined by soil testing. India should therefore take the implementation of the soil health card scheme more seriously. Another positive step would be the substitute of soluble fertilizers for granules in the subsidy scheme. Crop residue burning adds to greenhouse gas emissions and global warming. This may be lessened if farmers use agricultural residue for the production of biogas or in other effective methods. Gujarat provides a viable method for decentralized rainwater harvesting that might be scaled up at the national level or at least applied in those states that are at danger in order to address the issue of rapid groundwater depletion below subsistence levels. The method involves creating bori bunds, village tanks, and check dams to store water. Bori bunds are made with mud-filled gunny sacks. Farmers are constantly at risk of unstable revenue and failed crops. Raising agricultural production through new, strategic investments in climate-resilient crops that are resistant to floods and droughts, as well as sustainable farming methods, is therefore essential in guaranteeing food sufficiency for a growing population. In this regard, climate-smart rice cultivars have also been introduced by the Indian Council of Agricultural Research. India is a country with surplus food, but is still far behind in achieving Sustainable Development Goal 2.2, which calls for the abolition of chronic hunger by 2030. Approximate undernutritional rates in India are 14%, according to FAO's latest report, The State and Food Security and Nutrition in the World 2020. As per FAO 2020, 51.4% of women in the reproductive age group 15 to 49 years suffer from anemia, and more than 34.7% of children in India who are under 5 years old suffer from stunted growth. A bad environment, poor health services, inadequate education, inadequate care for women and children, inadequate access to food, and inadequate health services are the main causes of these circumstances. The food systems must be immediately transformed to lower the price of nutrient-dense foods and raise the accessibility of healthy diets. According to the international nutrition community, one of the most cost-effective and sustainable solutions for alleviation of hidden hunger or micronutrient deficiency is the innovation of biofortification. This is the technology through which the staples such as rice and wheat are fortified with micronutrients like vitamin A, zinc, iron, and protein. This could be done by either breeding micronutrients into staple crops using agronomic practices, plant breeding, fertilizer applications, or bioengineering to increase the density of micronutrients in the staple crop component of the diets. Thank you all for joining today's lecture. I hope you found